another feature that I think, or feature thing that I think is concerning, is they have like specific categories of content. So the specific one is disabling cosmetic surgery and extreme makeup filters. And they define it fairly narrowly and carefully, and they say like, oh, it doesn't include these other things that aren't problematic. And you can look at this and say, okay, I can understand where there are concerns about encouraging teenagers to do drastic cosmetic surgery or things like that. But we're getting into spaces where this is constitutionally protected speech. And as soon as you're in this space where like the government has pressured a company into saying like, we have to block this specifically defined content from children, it becomes really, really problematic. And the issue that I raised in my piece on it is, a lot of these things, like if you just look at them, you say like, sure, like maybe kids shouldn't have access to this. And I understand why Meta is doing them, but many of the feature changes, we don't know if they actually protect children. And you can make cases where they probably protect some children, but you can also look at this stuff. And I've been having discussions, actually just this morning before we were even recording, I was having a discussion with someone who has some expertise on suicide prevention, and was looking at some of the feature changes and saying, this might be really damaging to kids going through some mental health issues, where if these are not implemented well, it could cause teenagers dealing with a mental health episode to spiral in some ways. And so there's this element of, people talk about like, it's unfair or it's bad that companies are experimenting on our children with their algorithmic feeds or the different features. And, we don't know if it's safe or whatever. But this is also an experiment. And now this is, and this is because in some back room somewhere, a bunch of Meta lawyers and a bunch of state attorneys general got together and just decided in that room what they think will make kids safer.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there were probably that many child safety experts in that room. And we don't actually know if any of these feature changes will actually protect kids. Will, in some cases, will it make them worse? And there doesn't seem to be, it does, the settlement agreement does allow Meta to study some of these issues, but, they're still sort of locked into them. And there is like an independent auditor that is a part of the process, but the independent auditor is to audit that Meta is actually doing these things, not that they're working or protecting children in any way.
Yeah. Well, there is this Independent Social Media Research Foundation.
Yes.
Which is, it sounds nice, but there is not a lot of detail about what information would be available to researchers, academics, whether that would be historical data, live data, and whether it would kind of chronicle, this period under which these changes will be made. So I think that's a fair call out. I also wanted to kind of point out, I guess, on the time limits, 2 hours a day across Meta products sounds good. I think we had this idea that, teenagers are using their phones a lot on social media, that maybe is a reduction. I was looking up one Gallup poll in advance of chatting, and there's apparently boys and girls between the age of 13 and 18 spend about 5 hours on social media. And Meta are not the top most used app.
I was going to say, it's not Meta that they're spending that time on.
Right. So according to this one poll based upon 2,000 US teens, YouTube is around 2 hours.
YouTube.
TikTok is around an hour and a half across boys and girls. Instagram is an hour. Facebook is 0.3 of an hour. So and it will come onto this, and I think it's relevant because we're going to talk about Meta becoming an industry standard and how they've made some contingencies within the settlement that relate to their competitors, YouTube and TikTok. So I think this 2 hours sounds like a lot. It maybe isn't as little as we thought.